The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Last month, more Americans stopped looking for a job than found one. Too many people are falling further and further behind because right now, the president's policies are making people's lives harder. Republicans have plans to close the gap. Plans that will focus on jobs first, without more spending, government bailouts, and red tape. Every day, we're working to expand our economy, one manufacturing job, nursing degree, and small business at a time.
All right, that was Washington Congresswoman Cathy McMorris Rodgers delivering the Republican response to the President's State of the Union last night. And for some more GOP reaction, we turn it over once again to our panel of lawmakers. They were also at the State of the Union. Congresswoman Blackburn, Tennessee, good to see you. We know what's going to be told about all of you in this room in this election cycle. There's a war on women, that Republicans want dirty air and water. They want to throw Granny over the cliff. And income inequality. You don't want income inequality in America. What should the reaction be? How do you defend against what I would argue are predictable attacks?
You know, I think what we keep the focus on is opportunity. We're the great opportunity party. And when you've got the president always talking about minimum wage, let's flip it. Let's talk about maximum wage and letting individuals earn as much as they can possibly earn.
You just care about the rich. You know what they're going to say.
We want individuals to have opportunity and children to dream big dreams and see those dreams come true.
Could part of that argument be it's immoral to rob from our children with $17 trillion in debt? And Congressman Poe, the president said $9 trillion was irresponsible and unpatriotic. Now it's $17 trillion. Is there an argument to be made that we've got to balance our budget? How many of you would support the penny plan, cutting 1 cent out of every dollar that Congress spends across the board? Anybody? You got in trouble last night, Congressman Grimm. I'll get to you in a minute. Congressman Poe.
I won't comment on that, but certainly the president is not living in America.
Yeah.
He says one thing, and that's not the America he's talking about. The reason the economy's bad is because of his unilateral decision-making of issuing edicts from the White House, ignoring Congress, going his own way, becoming like Burger King, trying to have it his way without following the Constitution, which to him is just a mere suggestion. He's not living in America. He's saying things that are absurd. And, of course, the debt. He has helped create that debt, and now he wants to blame other people, the Republicans, for it.
There are two great moments in the conservative movement, Ronald Reagan and the contract with America. Is there time, Congressman, for a 5-item contract? The penny plan, energy, we'll be drilling, health care savings accounts, run down secure the border.
Well, I think there is. In fact, I think the reason we took control of Congress in the 90s was in the fog of government. Republicans set up a beacon, a light, where if you believe in these principles, come this direction and it work. I think it's time for that again. And on the economy, look, spending cuts will get us about halfway back to a balanced budget. We need a strong economy. And I'll tell you, last night, the starkest difference was when the president talked about tax reform. He wants to close tax loopholes to spend more. Republicans want to close tax loopholes to lower rates for everybody. Huge difference.
And I'll go to you, Congressman, if I can, up in the top, Congressman Salmon. Two things come to my mind. One is you got to spend less, and the second thing is I see the success that we're talking about in Midland, Texas, unemployment 3%, North Dakota it's 2.6%. People are getting $100,000 a year jobs, and the growth's amazing.
And last night the president was taking credit for the fact that we have so much oil and natural gas. I got a news flash. It happened in spite of him, not because of him. That drilling isn't happening on public lands. It's all happening on private lands. And it's not happening because he's letting it happen. It's happening because we have entrepreneurs that are making it happen. And they're paying $5,000 signing bonuses at
Leases
McDonald's.
are down 50% under the president, right?
I'm sorry?
Leases down 50%?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And the offshore drilling has all but gone away. If we really want to jumpstart this economy again, let's unleash this engine and start going after our oil and gas, and I'll tell you, it'll rise our economy like nothing else.
How as a party can you all unite and maybe get behind 5 items? Is that a good idea?
Absolutely.
Maybe? Agree? Hands, show of hands? But I don't see that. Why, Congressman Grimm, why are we not seeing a united party saying, elect us, we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, and F?
Yeah, I think part of it is just a little frustration. You know, if you're not on Fox News, let's be honest, you don't even hear what Republicans are saying. It's all being demonized and demagogued. And here's the other issue. You're up against Santa Claus. Let's be honest. What did the president say last night? He told everyone what they wanted to hear. Is it based in reality? Not even close. But that's what we're up against. We're up against reality. And the truth is, the president obviously doesn't know what reality is because he's completely off base.
And you weren't going to throw that guy off the balcony, were you?
Absolutely not.
I'm just checking. All right. You're a New Yorker, right?
I like you.
Glad to hear that. All right. Coming up next, we're going to take you behind the scenes of my State of the Union experience. We have exclusive photos from my entire day in D.C. and details you don't want to miss, including my dinner with the stars of Duck Dynasty, which was a lot of fun. But first, our panel of lawmakers, they're going to answer some of your questions that you've been sending us and posting on Facebook and Twitter all day. That's all straight ahead as Hannity from D.C. continues. And welcome back to Hannity. Now, as we've been mentioning all throughout the show, we wanted you, our viewers, to be a part of our Capitol Hill focus group. And you've been sending questions via Twitter and Facebook with the hashtag AskSean. And out of the thousands of responses that we've gotten, the top 5 are these that you want the lawmakers to address. Number 1, when will you do your job? They'll answer that. Number 2, keep focusing on Benghazi. Number 3, why is the government such a mess? 4, is it time for term limits? And finally, how will we end the lying in Washington as we bring back our studio audience? And I guess Congressman Kelly is next. Congressman, first of all, who would support term limits? Not everybody. All right, mixed. A lot of people, you look at the dissatisfaction rate with Congress, people say they blame both parties, obviously the lies on Obamacare. What can people do in your position to bring back confidence in government?
Well, I think they can follow the same example of the president. He says, I've got a phone, I've got a pen. I think people need to get on their phone. They need to start writing letters. But what they also have to do, I want the president to use that phone to call Harry Reid and say, hey, Harry, we got some 40 jobs bills sitting on your desk. Let's move them, debate them, amend them, get them back to me. And I can guarantee you, he would get writer's cramp in his left arm signing all that legislation and putting it into law. But the number one thing we have to do, Sean, now the president's going to be in Pittsburgh today. He'll be in the Steel City talking with people at U.S. Steel, men and women at U.S. Steel. He's going to be talking and walking with the same people that I walk with and talk with every day when I come out of Mass or come out of Kmart. He has to listen to what the people have to say. The people don't have to listen. Listen, this is the government that's supposed to serve the people.
Those bitter people that cling to their guns, Bibles, and religion.
Thank God we do.
Yeah, thank God. Congressman.
We'd love to have you in Florida, just a pitch for the Sunshine State. Look, I think what some of the voters see is a disconnect between Washington, a ruling class up here, and the rest of the country. You have millions of people who don't feel like they have any representation at all, a lot of taxpayers who feel like their money is wasted. So some of these structural reforms, like term limits, like a balanced budget amendment, making sure Congress lives under the terms of the laws they pass, I think that would help give the American people some confidence.
Are congressmen fighting, Republicans fighting too much amongst themselves? Does there need to, keep it simple, stupid? I always kind of... Is it the 5-item agenda that maybe the American people need to hear? I remember Newt Gingrich, elect us, we'll do these 10 things. Is it time for something similar so that...
As a dentist, I love the KISS theory, keep it simple, stupid. But it also means you also have to have strategy. And America doesn't believe that Washington, D.C. is held to the same standard as they are. And that's why we have to have a strategy to put the president on his heels. Make sure that there's justice in this country, and getting rid of the Attorney General is the number one issue to do just that.
There is a lot of lawlessness. We talked about it. Absolutely. Congressman, what do you think?
Well, I think many of us are doing our jobs. We're fighting to protect the Constitution and create jobs. And the big sea change that happened last night was, Jason mentioned, many of us have sat through 6 State of the Unions. But it's not what we heard last night. The big thing last night was the disconnect the American people felt between what this president said and the fact that only a third of Americans last night felt they were better off last night than they were when the president was elected.
Yeah, we've had 2 polls come out this week, NBC, Wall Street Journal, ABC, Washington Post. Congressman, how do we bring confidence back in Washington? I would think a lot of it is rooted in creating jobs and getting a balanced budget, no?
Well, I think that's right. And we need job creation strategies and policies. But it's very hard to legislate in divided government with a president who won't work with us, a Senate that won't work with us on time-tested methods of getting good policies in place to create jobs, energy, trade policy, opening new markets, things like that, rolling back the regulatory state. But the one thing we can do in divided government is oversight. Cast sunshine on these really awful policies. Really dig work hard. Jason's been doing that. We've been doing that on Ways and Means with the IRS. Devin has been working on Benghazi. Those are the kind of things we
I want to make sure I get everybody. Congresswoman, what if the president follows through on his threat on executive orders?
Well, we need to make sure that doesn't happen. He needs to,
Happen.
instead of going around Congress, he needs to work with Congress. And I think it's really important. And most Americans know what we are against. We are against the president's policies for this nation. But I think it's important for all of us in this room to articulate what we're for. And I think laying out the differences, the better alternatives we have for energy, for taxes.
Congressman, we got to get you two guys in.
Sean,
real quick.
let me say what wasn't said last night. So the ranger that served 10 tours fighting Al-Qaeda got the longest ovation. Not one mention of Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda is stronger today than they ever have been.
Interesting. Last word, Congressman.
Well, my biggest takeaway from last night was that when it comes to health care, the president, he admitted, there was an admission that his plan wasn't working. Because you can't fix something that's already working.
That's why you all laughed?
That was an admission. But the second point was the laughter and how the president mocked the American people who are going through so much pain and suffering. It is a real issue in the homes of the families that were watching last night. And he just laughed. And he created laughter about an issue that is so personal to the American people who have lost their insurance.
Funny. It's not funny for the 6 million people that don't have insurance anymore. And he said you'd be able to keep the plan. I hope you guys can unite behind 5 strong issues and help change the country. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. And the American people I know do as well. It's great to hear from all of you. Thank you all.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.